All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing book number 5 in Robert Galbraith's Cormoran Strike British mystery series. This is titled Troubled Blood, book number 5. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is Robert Galbraith is actually the pseudonym that J.K. Rowling uses to write her mystery novels. And for those of you that don't know who J.K. Rowling is, she wrote Harry Potter. For those of you who don't know who Harry Potter is, I can't help you with life anymore after that. I just can't. But I will give you one life hack. This is book number 5. Now, I have reviewed books number 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the channel. And if you want to watch those book reviews before you listen to this one, all you need to do, and this is the life hack I'm going to help you with, all you need to do to find those book reviews on YouTube is type in my last name, Durfee, and then Robert Galbraith's name into your YouTube search bar, and those video reviews will magically appear upon your television screen through some sort of sorcery that I just don't understand. But it happens. Anyway, as I got reading this book, well, let's talk about the cover first. It's a great cover. If we go over here, I'm going to put it next to with the other books. If we go over here and get a close-up of these, you can see that the first 3 books in the series had a certain style of cover. And I honestly didn't like these covers one bit. I didn't like them at all. And I even said that in my reviews. I was like, and then they changed the style slightly here. And I kind of, I like these a little better. But it is a little jarring when you put them on the shelf next to each other that they you know, they don't match. But, you know, what can you do? Well, I know I can't do jack shit about it. But these are dope books. I like them. There's also in this book, this is a 1,000-page book. Like the first book was about 400 pages. Now these mysteries are about 1,000 pages, which I love. They really remind me of sort of the Elizabeth George, Inspector Lynley mysteries that started as littler books about 400 pages each, and now they're like 1,000 pages each. I love delving into a very dense, epic murder mystery set in Britain. And they've all even got, this one has a lot of illustrations inside of it, I'll be honest with you. A lot of quirky like illustrations. Let's see what page I need to go to just show you one of them. We'll edit this part out where I'm searching. But I mean, this was the wrong one to show. This was like anyway, there's a lot of like little paganistic like drawings and stuff like here from our serial killer, and they're all throughout the book. But anyway, let's talk about this delightful opening of this book where Cormoran Strike, our main character. Now, Cormoran Strike is a private investigator. He is a Iraq war veteran from the British Army. He has an injury. He's missing one of his legs, so he's got a bit of a what do you call that? An injury. Now, what do you call it when you've got an injury and now you can't do things anymore? It's the people in wheelchairs. They're handicapped. Jeez, I'll edit all that out too. He's got a handicap. He's missing a leg. That's part of his personality. It kind of makes him an angry guy. In fact, a lot of his anger is manifested in this book, and then there's some scenes where I'm just like, this dude is angry. I mean, he makes a fool of himself a lot of times in this book with his anger. But that's a good character development trait to have for, you know, whatever is going on in a story. You got your main characters have to have flaws, folks. And these two guys, Cormoran Strike and his partner Robin, have a lot of flaws. And that's kind of the charm of the book, is seeing them work through these flaws. They don't work through them very good. Well, they've got bad communication skills. I'm just going to tell you right there. So anyway, this book starts out delightful opening in the Cornish countryside, like a little pub in Cornwall, and where Cormoran is talking to an old chum of his from childhood, and they're just discussing things like Tolstoy and marriage, which, you know, and then the next chapter we get from Robin's perspective. Now, Robin is a young woman who is partnered up with Cormoran Strike in the private investigative business that he owns, and she is out on another case, like following this guy that's cheating on his wife. Well, she kind of finds out that this guy is going through a divorce. Well, Robin herself is going through a divorce, which is a big part of this plot. But she's chasing a guy that's a cheater, trying to investigate for his wife what's going on. So we get all these discussions about relationships and how they usually effed up and all this stuff. But then as Cormoran Strike is leaving the pub where he's talking with his friend, and this is in a town called Falmouth, England, which I Googled. A lot of times when I read a book like this and it's set in a place I've never been or a place I'm curious about, I will Google it just to see what it's like. And Falmouth seems like a delightful little English, Cornwellian town that's on the coast of southern England, somewhere on the southwest corner, which is where Cornwall, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, if you were to sail a ship from Falmouth south, you'd probably run into Mont Saint Michel, France. I'm just saying. Anyway, so so as he's leaving the pub, God, I'm rambling a lot in this review, but I really like this book. It's probably my favorite so far. And as I was getting into the book, certain scenes were coming up, and I was like, oh, that's right. This is the book that came out right when J.K. Rowling was going through that whole controversy where everybody started hating on J.K. Rowling. And because there's a character in here, there's a kind of a Hannibal Lecter-esque character in here that's in prison already for being a serial killer who was a cross-dresser. And for whatever reason, that just made people go fucking ape shit and cancel J.K. Rowling. But anyway, I started to remember that as I was reading this. But anyway, we'll set that aside. We'll set all that aside and just be like, this is a dope book about a killer, a cold case. Let's get back to Cormoran leaving the pub with his buddy. He leaves the pub with his buddy. Now, Cormoran, throughout these first 4 books, has developed quite a reputation in and around England because he solved some very famous murder cases, and his picture has been on TV a lot. So he gets recognized a lot of places he goes. And this lady recognizes him in the pub, and so she tracks him down in the parking lot and says, hey, will you help me find out who murdered my mother? However, my mother was murdered in 1974, so it might be a little difficult. And Cormoran is initially kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't really work on cold cases. But then he's like really intrigued because he realizes that this case might be tied to one of the biggest serial killer cases in British history. And so he's like, well, I gotta do it. Gotta figure out if this woman was really one of the victims of that serial killer. And so that's kind of the plot of the story. Who saw the victim last? Who were her co-workers? He goes into all of this investigation along with his partner Robin. There's a lot of discussions in this book about Cormoran's anger issues, how sending, like, there's a lot of things about like strip clubs and dance clubs and the porn industry and human trafficking and cross-dressing and the dangers of sending dick pics to each other nowadays as opposed to previous generations, which really that wasn't a thing. And then the main kind of biggest kind of charm of this book is the relationship between Robin and Strike now that Robin's going through a divorce. And it seems throughout the first 3 or 4 books, and this is book number 5, the two have sort of had a crushes on each other a little bit. It seems like they both kind of want to like each other, but you just know that they're both like toxic people and they're going to sabotage their if they get into it, they'll be sabotaged so quick. Just with the different personality clashes. But anyway, and then there's a scene here about pancreatic cancer. Why? And it's kind of a lengthy scene, and I'm reading about this pancreatic cancer scene, and I'm like, well, my God, a few months ago I had problems with my pancreas, and so I learned I've done stuff about the pancreas, and all I gotta say is with pancreatic cancer, nobody survives. I mean, just look at, you know, Patrick Swayze and some of the people who died from it. And I mean, if you Google pancreatic cancer, it'll tell you it's unsurvivable. Nobody's ever survived pancreas. It's 1 to 5 years and you're gone. And then I had troubles with my pancreas getting an infection that stayed in my pancreas for like 4 months and almost killed me like a half a dozen times. And so whenever I see, you know, before my medical issue, I had never, the word pancreas had never crossed my lips. Now I see the word everywhere I go. And it's in this book too. I loved this book. 1,000 pages of fantastic murder mystery, British murder mystery, stuff I love. This is the best book in the group so far. Book number 5. I can't wait to get to book number 6 and 7. And CJ, I'm going to collect these books until she stops writing them, right? Just an absolute perfect murder mystery. Perfect British murder mystery. I have to give it 10 out of 10. I really do. It's just that good.